This message is for all the mothers, Christian mothers, who dedicate themselves to their children and dedicate their children to God. So the example we're going to see today is the exemplary example of Hannah in the Old Testament. She has a lot of parallels with Mary in the New Testament, the mother of Jesus. Things such as them dedicating themselves to God. They sing songs to God. The Magnificat is very similar to Hannah's prayer and song of worship in 1 Samuel 2, 1 through 10. And she sees children as a blessing. So let's talk first a little bit before we read this text of Hannah and who she is. She was a mother who could not have children. She wanted to have children because she saw children as a blessing. She prayed to God for children. You see her going up to the temple. She writes songs of praise that are in essence prayers of thanksgiving and gratitude to God. So all this character that she had, you see in her son Samuel. She was his first teacher and most important teacher, as many Christian moms are today. Today, many people have the opportunity with having our children at home to spend more time in teaching them to minister and teaching them to become the next line of leaders. That is, in essence, the purpose of the ministry we have, and the ministry fathers have, but mothers have, is to train your children and dedicate them to the ministry of God. What does that ministry look like? It's not only just being elders, preachers, teachers, but it's also how they minister to people in their everyday life, in their jobs, and how they will then have more children that will be the next generation of leaders. So we see them as blessings. We role model how to be dedicated to God. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people, and unfortunately, I see a lot of mothers say, can't wait to get rid of these kids. These kids are a pest, and I want them to go back to school. Can someone else please take them out of my house? I don't think that's a very Christian worldview, because 200 years ago, you had people living in farms where work, family life, education was all kind of the same place. And I think we've lost that ability to have our families at home and be able to train and educate them. And nobody will, I'm going to just be honest, train and educate your child as much as a caring Christian mom. Now, there are some people who are parents and mothers who are neglectful and really don't care for their children. That's sad. Let's not do that. Let's be dedicated to our children and minister them to, so that they can become ministers of God. So let's read the text here. It says, after all this happened and the child was born, then they slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli. She said, "Oh, my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. For this boy I prayed, and the Lord has given me my petition which I asked of him. So I have also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there." So one of the things that happens is that we need to realize that our children being born is a miracle. I had a professor who told me about all the possible things that could happen when a child is in the womb, and that we have a child that is healthy, that we have a child that is alive, is in essence a miracle. So the first thing we do is thank God that our children are alive and that they're born to us. Second, I want to thank people like my mom, who raised me in the church and insisted that I go to church. She would take me sometimes kicking and screaming, but at the end of going to church, I always felt better and felt nourished spiritually. There's a lot of Christian mothers out there that are concerned and fulfill the physical, emotional, and spiritual feeding of their children. And that's what mothers do well. That's something that we have to do well also, fathers, for our children. Third of all, I'd like to thank my wife because she is the first and best teacher to my children. She teaches a lot better than I do. She's more articulate. She's more patient, much better teacher, and a lot prettier to look at than me, okay? And I also want to thank all the mothers out there, specifically the Christian moms that are having spending time with their children, who are dedicating themselves to training their children academically, spiritually, emotionally, who are feeding them physically. We thank you, moms. I know that because of what my mom did to me, I was not a perfect teenager by no means. But that Christian education that I received mostly from her helped me come back to the straight and narrow. And whenever I deviated, it wouldn't be long. I would always end up coming back. And so some of you parents might be experiencing some of that right now, some frustration with your children. Some of you moms might think, I spent all this time and I've dedicated all this time for my child so that they can come out this way and do this and do that. Be patient. I am a prime example. I eventually came back, and so keep on doing the good work of dedicating yourself to your children and dedicating them to God. God bless.